a lot of people come to me and they're like, Carlin, I just want more likes. But that's not the goal of social media, because it's not about likes. It's really about connection and about community. And one thing that I really tell everyone is the content that you make is not nearly as important as the comments you make and the engagement that you have.
Welcome to the Love Your Brand podcast. If you're looking for real conversations with real people, you're the right place. Let's go!
Let's go. Awesome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Love Your Brand podcast. Welcome today, Miss Carlin Ham. She's the owner and lead strategist at Get Social Charlotte. She helps others realize their own success online. And I could talk a lot about her based on what I've gained from just digging into your profile and from what Jonathan has shared. But I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to you, Miss Carlin. So welcome. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Let's go.
Thanks for joining us, Carlin.
Oh, I love that.
You know, we had a mutual friend, Carlin, that said, you got to talk to Carlin. You got to have her on the show. And so thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the risk to sit and chat with us today. Like Jason said, we looked a little bit online of what you do. And you can tell with your backdrop, you can tell with your color, with your brand, your personal brand all around you. You got a bubbly personality and a lot to offer. So we're excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, I am so happy to be here. I love the name Love Your Brand. Like, how powerful is that? How did you guys come up with this?
Honestly, I came up with Love Your Brand about 10 years ago as the actual tagline for the primary tagline for TalenAlexander. And, you know, it was just a time in my life to where I was just really becoming more passionate. And I was seeing a lot of opportunity with organizations and brands to dive deeper into the brand conversation. You know, I feel like prior to that, everything was surface level. So I was looking at more quality instead of quantity. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of, it was in the middle of the night. Both the name and the tagline hit me. It was just like, boom. Woke up, designed the logo type, and I'd say about 20 minutes. And the tagline came right after that. And it's really meant for twofold, right? Love your brand. I truly believe that if someone is passionate about their brand, it will permeate. You know, it will vibrate. Their frequency will create their brand and their passion for the brand over time and support all their messaging and outreach efforts, right? And on the flip side, you always want your customers and your audience to love your brand. So it's kind of a two-way street. So it wasn't not really rocket science, but that's just how it came to be. Love your brand. And then when we started the podcast, it just naturally evolved over to the podcast, to the Love Your Brand podcast.
That is so special. That is awesome. I think it's so important to be in flow and just kind of like stay in the space where you feel like you're doing the right thing and like you're happy about it and you're excited about it. And when you stay in that space, that's where those amazing ideas come in, where you're like, oh my God, it all makes sense now. Like, this is what all of this has been leading up to. And that's really kind of how I got to where I'm at. I'll just kind of use this as a segue.
Take us there.
Yeah. So back a long, long time ago, I was in college and I have always been an entrepreneur. Like when I was 5, I was like, making my own potpourri and selling it door to door. Like I love connecting with people, and like really it's just the engagement that I just love. Um, and so I was in college and I'm like, okay, I need to hustle. Like I'm sitting here in class, kind of like in my mind, wasting time, for the bigger thing, which is like, what am I going to be doing? And so I felt all this pressure of like, how do I get here? Because I know I'm not a normal 9 to 5er. Like I knew that at a very young age. I was like, how am I going to do that? Because that is not me. I'm very creative. I don't like a schedule. Like I don't time block. Tried it, been there, done that. It just doesn't work with the way that I do my life. So I was looking for a job, and at the place that I was employed at in college, I was like, who do I need to talk to here to get like a real corporate job? So I met the head of marketing, and he hired me as a social media manager. And this was in 2013, maybe.
So the landscape was totally different even 11 years ago.
Oh my God, yes. Like I was posting graphics only, like only graphics, no videos. Like that was a foreign concept. Like if we posted a video, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And no one watched it, right? Like, so yeah, it's so different now. But fast forward a couple of years, I graduated, I started working there full time. They fired my manager, who was my chief marketing officer, and they placed me, little me, in that role. And of course, it didn't come with any of the pay raises.
I was going to ask that.
Yeah. No, they were like, yeah, you're making about what you should at your age. And at that point, I was like, okay, this is not going to work. And so my mom's an entrepreneur. She opened her own mortgage business when I was very little. So I watched her hustle, I knew kind of what it took. And so I actually, just in like a life crisis, went and got my mortgage license, and it changed my life forever.
Wow.
Yeah. So I went from doing social media for a big brand to being in mortgages, which I am not a numbers kind of gal. I learned to be a numbers kind of gal, I was like, I'm 20, like I'm like 23 at this point. I'm like, who's going to trust me with the most important purchase in their life? Like no one, absolutely no one. And then I took a big look around me, and I was like, wow, I'm so different than anyone in this industry. It was a lot of just, older, boring people, no offense. But I was just like, people told me the whole time, they're like, you can't wear dresses. You have to wear your hair back. You can't meet with a husband without his wife. And like, y'all, I was like, what am I doing in this industry? But mortgages, they make good money. And I was just having all this momentum, and I was networking like a crazy lady all over Charlotte. And yeah, I built my mortgage brand, but I didn't use social media really. And then it kind of came to me. I was like, I'm really different. And like people don't love that. Like some people don't love that, but there are people who do love that and who are using me. And so I really leaned into that heavy 2020. Like when we were in the pandemic, I was just making videos. And a part of that was probably because I'm such a connector of people. Like I just wanted to connect, and just being locked up, I was just like, oh my God, what am I doing? I would like go to the grocery store in my mask and be like, hi, like,
Yeah.
can we have a conversation? Like, look at these tomatoes, like, and then people started really like noticing the video content and connecting with it and like expecting it. And there for a while, I was posting on social media every single day. And that's how I built Closing with Carlin.
Mm.
So,
can we pause for a second?
Yeah, totally.
So, thanks for sharing. This is exciting. I love this. Just how people end up where they are. So 5 years old, you're an entrepreneur. You just have that entrepreneurial spirit about you, and yet you go to college. Because typically it's not the entrepreneurs that go to college, and you have the two ways that you can go. So what was it that made you go to college instead of after high school, paving your own path and going straight into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, there's one answer, and it's I spent majority of my life living a narrative that other people wrote for me.
Yeah, same.
Like, even in getting my mortgage license, like my mom dragged me kicking and screaming. Not really. I mean, she was like, you could be great at this. And finally I was like, you know what, this might be great. But really, that's not what I wanted to do, And I just knew it was the next step when I got out of high school. Which is crazy because when I got out of high school, I was on such a momentum. Like I had so much momentum going. And then I got to college and they were like, now choose what major you want. And I was like,
You're like,
no.
what? Yeah.
Can I just major in life? Like,
I'm kind of figuring it out.
Yeah. I ended up switching my major like 3 times. I did PR, I did communications, and I ended up with psychology. So
which is actually a very, very fascinating thing that ties in with marketing, because the psychology of human behavior, the psychology of color, there's so many elements of psychology that go into branding and marketing.
Totally. I use that every day. But, could I have skipped it? Probably. Especially if you're listening to this and you're going into real estate or being a loan officer, like start now. Even if you're in school, like just do it on the side. Like it's a no-brainer. You just take right off with that type of career without anything. But I'm glad I went to college. I learned a lot of skills that I actually think I learned more work ethic. And I think that's generally what people get out of college is work ethic, getting into that routine, dealing with due dates and holding yourself accountable. Right. So yeah, that's
interesting. I think so many people, we've had some other guests, similar story with college, and I'm right there in the same boat. It was just kind of after high school, it's what you do. I didn't have direction in my life, but still had that entrepreneurial thing. I was like, oh, I want to do my own thing, but didn't know how to. There were some fears around it. So I had to work through and sort through all that. But you hear that story so often. And, I think like, if I had to pay for college myself, it's probably going to be, I'm going to be a lot more driven. I'm going to be a lot more focused. I'm probably going to graduate early and have a clear path of what I'm going to do. But so often, individuals where their parents pay for college, we just kind of look at it as a free ticket. We go, maybe party a little bit, maybe go to class sometimes, just want to get that diploma because it's like the catch-22. Big corporate is looking for, you have to have that piece of paper that says you went to college. And it's like, it's so interesting. I mean, the landscape's changed now, but I mean, that paper doesn't dictate anything. It doesn't dictate your work ethic. It doesn't dictate, are you driven? Are you a go-getter? Are you community minded? All these different aspects. So when you go to the social media agency or the marketing company that you run the social media for, how long were you there and before you got into the mortgage, and how long did you stay in mortgage before you started Closing with Carlin?
Yeah. So the timeline's so fuzzy. But I was there 13, 14, 15. I was there for probably 4 years. And then I was in mortgage for 8 years. Does that sound right? I was probably there for actually maybe like 2.5 years, mortgage 8 years. So yeah, not a lot of time. But it seems like centuries ago. I've lived so many lives in between there.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is, if nobody knows what Closing with Carlin is, I mean,
Yeah.
what, somebody comes across your business, your website, your social media pages, I mean, what is it that you do now?
Yeah. So I I got married in 2020, March 14th, 2020.
Oh, wow.
And it was like the craziest thing ever because we had to like replan our wedding. The news showed up at our wedding. And
For what reason?
because it was so the news showed up at our wedding.
Now
This
we're
is
being dangerous.
because we got married at the Duke Chapel.
Mm.
And we were going to get married on the steps of the Duke Chapel for the first time ever because COVID changed everything. And so the news came to cover it, which eventually actually shut down our wedding. It was a crazy story
Ooh.
for another day.
Yeah.
And it just continued to get crazier. My husband got laid off the day after we got married. So at that point, I was like, okay, I have to really buckle down. And I was like head first in mortgages and creating content. And then I realized like I really did not like mortgages. Like it was not fulfilling. I was working 24 hours a day, it felt like. And then from there, I had a ton of people reaching out about social media. So that's where my company comes from. So I still use my brand Closing with Carlin, which I created as a loan officer. I still do mortgages for friends and family, but I don't do them. I pass them along to my amazing team. And my brand Get Social Charlotte is what was born out of that whole time in my life. So I'm still Closing with Carlin because I will literally walk into a place, and this is what branding does, right? Like I walked into a nail salon and this girl's like, "Are you Closing with Carlin?"
Oh, wow.
Yeah. How did you know? And she's like, "The hair and the pink." And
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my God." Like, because we see
There you
people on
go.
social media all the time that like we wouldn't recognize
Hmm.
in a normal setting, right? And that's when I realized like, okay, like this is kind of powerful. And I started helping other people with their content creation. And people asked me to speak at events. And that's kind of really where Get Social comes from. And really what I do is I do social media management. So I will, post for my clients and I'll kind of dig into their lives. I'm really like their best friend because I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing this weekend? How can we create content around that?" And I hold their hand through it all. I'm like, "Okay, maybe try this angle, try this." And so that's what I do on the social media management side of things. And then on my branding side of things, I go into a really deep dive into your brand. And I am looking for things that make you you, and seeing how we can connect you to your ideal client, right? Because your brand should be a reflection of you and your ideal client. Like it can't be one or the other. Like you can't be trying to be your ideal client without being yourself. So that's really what I do. And I help people find that voice, you know?
That's awesome. I think so many people, many individuals are great at their trade and what they do, but they don't understand the business and the marketing aspect of business. It's just things that we weren't taught. And so people have a passion about, I want to do this, I want to make this impact or reach these people, but I don't know how. And so do most people with your clients that you work with, are you out actively, trying to get new business and you're reaching out to them, or people like the nail salon stumbling upon you and they see what you're doing based on how you're showing up on social and they're saying, "Hey, I need what you have to offer." Like, is it a both and, or is it a one or the other that is your primary focus?
It's really funny because my entire strategy was to be on social media for my mortgage. And I'm actually on a social media break right now, which is funny because I own a social media company. Um, it makes me laugh, but it's really entirely word of mouth. Like my client posts a video, their sphere says, who did that? And then they call me.
Yeah.
So that's really how I've been getting my business. And I am like one client away from a wait list. So it's incredible word of mouth.
So
So,
that's going to be my next question. Go ahead, Jason. Let you talk for a minute.
well, no, I mean, but anyway, so you're one client away from a wait list. So currently I guess the do it for you model, right? You come in and you actually take all the photos, give them ideas. It's kind of a hybrid situation. How many people are currently helping you with this venture, or is it just you?
Zero.
Zero. Okay. So
Zero. Actually, I lied. My husband helps me. He'll bring me dinner when I'm editing all the time. And
What a guy.
and he actually is my drone guy. So he gets all my drone footage and
nice.
yeah, he's just my best friend. So I do owe it all to him. But other than that, it's just me.
That's awesome. So
Go ahead.
are you anticipating to eventually grow to a larger capacity, maybe bring someone else in, or have more of a personal, you know, a few clients at a time, have them on a wait list? Um, what are you thinking?
You know, I'm really struggling with that because what I do is so specialized and like so one on one. I think it's really important for me to be super involved in like the day to day. I am looking to hire someone, hopefully soon, to help me just kind of organize content, that type of stuff. Um, but I don't know, I just opened my business July 2021. You guys, like it is still very new. Um, and I'm just learning as I go and kind of like, okay, what are my goals? What do I have the capacity for? I'm a big, big like person on doing what you love and like not letting work just like take over 100%. So I'm a big traveler. And luckily, what I do, I can travel and still do work. So that's been really such a blessing for me to keep it balanced. But we'll see. I have a lot of things, in my brain that I'm like, how am I bringing this from my brain into reality? But yeah,
It's a very scary thing. I think, finding partners, hiring support for over 20 years now. And, the whole thing, they come to me, some with college degrees, with right here on the back of the wall during the interview or whatnot, or they bring them in and all that, or with, a lot of experience or with a little bit of experience, over that 20-year span. I don't think not once did college or any former education ever sway my opinion on that individual during the hiring process. Um,
that's
I,
amazing.
but they all didn't work out. It's a scary thing when you look at, hey, I would like to do more, because when you love what you do, you look at it as you're truly serving others and you want what's best for them and their brand. So it's kind of like, you get all this passion. You're like, well, I can only serve this many people when it's just me, but I've got my friend, I've got this brand that needs help. I want to serve them. I want to help them, because you see such tragedies and just mishaps and just like, wow, they need help. So truly, that was my origin of even attempting to scale. I could have easily just said, let's keep it kind of small, intimate. But then I just saw such a need. There was just such a space in the marketplace. So that's what kind of got me looking at hiring and expanding my bandwidth. And when you bring people in, you're looking at, truly finding someone to replace you, constantly, and delegating those tasks and creating that internal brand culture within the company. So they're vibing, same vision, mission, so they can help educate and drive your clients and partners. That's a hard thing to do. I think in today's business landscape and brand landscape, I'll say it again. Every company and brand needs a CBO, a chief brand officer. They need to sit at the table with the C-suite, the decision makers. Their responsibility solely needs to be on the client side, discovering what they think about their brand, what the headspace is, constant surveys, constant, product knowledge, polls, conversations with the audience. And then they've got to devote the other half of their time internally to their people. What's your passion? What do you enjoy doing? There's an internal brand and an external brand. If that internal brand is off, that external brand, forget about it, right? It's that internal brand is so passionate. So I'm always like, every company needs a CBO, and they need to sit at the C-suite because it directly reflects every KPI in the organization. And
Definitely.
Companies, it's hard for them to understand that. Like Coke, it's got a certain brand equity, right? It's worth a certain amount. That brand equity is huge in that. It's like 50% of big brands. So you're constantly trying to grow that market share. So you need someone dedicated strictly to internal brand and external brand. So anyway, that's my tangent on that. And I'm going to keep saying it on every episode until you start seeing fractional CEOs across LinkedIn. Go ahead.
Carlin, when you don't have to call out a specific client of yours, but like what kind of things have you seen when somebody comes your way and they say, Carlin, I need help, social media, and I'm assuming you kind of look at how they're showing up, you're looking at what they're posting on social, all the elements around their brand. What are you finding that most people are doing wrong that they don't know before you start to help them?
That's a great question. And I have so many things because everyone is so different. Like everyone comes with their own social media experience. And that's why I ask every client, I'm like, what is your strength when it comes to social media? Like, what is that strength, if any? A lot of them are like, I just have a really bad relationship with it. And when I get on there, I'm constantly comparing myself and it makes it hard for me to show up authentically. So that's a huge one that I have to deal with. Another thing is that we're just so hard on ourselves. Like the way we look, the way we sound, we're so mean to ourselves instead of just being like proud of ourselves for being there and showing up. We're just tearing ourselves down. That's a big one I have to fight through. Most of my clients don't like social media at all. And they're just like, please handle this for me. And please tell me how I need to be showing up online. And that's
what don't they like about it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, they just are doing a billion things and they're growing their brand personally, and a lot of them don't have time to figure out what trends to do and figure out a call to action and a hook and what song are we using and what's the cover photo going to be. So there's so many just things flying around and it's just easy to get distracted and just be like, you know what, I'm not even going to post it. So I think fighting through just some of that negative relationship with social media, that's a big part of my job.
I
Yeah,
get that.
that's
I
really
get
good.
that. You know, I'm the same way, Carlin. I mean, I've I've got a love-hate relationship. It's a necessity, right? I know it's the personal brand and the outlets are a necessity to build your brand and to have longevity. But it's like you said, you get busy with life. I have four beautiful children and now three animals in the last 3 months. And, a plumbing disaster I've got to handle here, business and accounting and loans and whatever. I'm putting out fires. So it's really hard to put a lot of energy into posting that. I'll take a photo sometimes and just be like, here, Zan, here, do something with this. I know it's good. This is what I'm thinking, right? And then she'll kind of help craft it, right? And put in a lot of that polished text and context around it. That it just takes time. It takes a lot of time developing social content. It's a very valuable asset that you provide.
Absolutely.
And I found, Carlin, I don't know if this is the same for you. When I've talked to clients in the past or people that need marketing help, social media is one aspect of marketing, and it's huge within itself. I think with social media, there needs to be a strategy around it to where, what are you working towards? Is this to grow your social media presence? Is this to create brand awareness? Is this to generate leads through some kind of lead magnet that you're giving out? Like, there's so many different components. And I've found that most people, they're just posting stuff without kind of aimlessly, without a strategy. They're at an event or something. Oh, I'm going to take a picture and just post something. And maybe it gets a few likes, a little bit of engagement, but it's not honed in on, all right, this is where we're going. And these are all the different posts that would get me there. Do you find that people have somewhat of a similar challenge? And do you have a strategic direction when you take them on a social media journey?
Yes, for sure. I'm looking at a goal. We're gonna say probably most companies have like 3 goals of why they're on social media: to grow their following, to get more leads, and to just subliminal marketing. And so whatever those goals are, and whatever we pull back when we do our deep dive, we're creating a strategy just strictly around those goals. A lot of people come to me and they're like, Carlin, I just want more likes. And I'm like, okay, all right. Like, you just want more likes, but that's not the goal of social media.
Correct.
And this is really where I turn people's heads. I see their head, like they're just like, what? Because it's not about likes. You guys know that. It's really about connection and about community and nurturing that community, building that trust, becoming the go-to person in whatever industry it is that you're in. And that is really why we're on social media. And one thing that I really tell everyone is the content that you make is not nearly as important as the comments you make and the engagement that you have. And I always tell people, I'm like, look, most of my clients are realtors, lenders, I have all different kinds of brands, but a huge chunk of them that's what it is. And I'm like, look, we suck at follow-up. Like, it's just is what it is. No lender or realtor is out there just naturally following up because there's a billion things flying around your head at all times. You're getting a low appraisal here, inspection that, has $10,000 worth of water damage, and so you're not going through your people like you should. And we all have big goals, right? But social media is the lazy follow-up way. So if you're looking for a strategy to implement on social media right now, this is one that you can use. So go on there, and every morning when you're having your coffee or your tea or whatever, do your gratitudes first. Make sure you're grateful before you enter that space, right? But when you go in there, you're looking for people that you can celebrate, your happy birthdays, your, happy anniversary. And you're lifting other people up, which fills you up. And then maybe someone's on vacation. So you put on your calendar one week from today, I'm going to follow up with Sam and see how her trip to Mexico went. And it's just this like organic, like mindset of maybe just pouring into others that kind of allows you to be present and have a goal in mind when you're on there. You're not just aimlessly scrolling and comparing yourself. You're like looking for, how can I celebrate my sphere of influence? How can I connect? How can I make a better connection here or there? I mean, I've met one of my best friends on social media. Like I found her online, Orlando Realtor, and I was like, oh my God, I think you're so cool. Can we be friends?
Yeah.
She's one of my best friends. So things like that, to try and switch that mindset from, oh my God, I'm not doing it as much as these people, to, oh my God, I get to celebrate these people and engage with them. And that's a part of my job.
Yeah. That's so good. I think, when social media came out, it really wasn't for businesses yet. It was a personal thing. And, we all understand how the brain is wired and the dopamine hit. And so, we post something, we go on, we see a like and another like and another like, and it's just that, immediate dopamine hit. I want more, more, more. So what you were sharing, some people, hey, I just want more likes. I think it's because that's how it started. And they're just used to that instead of understanding how social media truly can be leveraged as a business. Like you meeting your best friend. I met my wife on social media, and, with social media is such a safe way to build a relationship with somebody, because we had the old ways of going door to door. You had to be face to face with somebody. And there can be some people really struggle with that. And so social media is like, hey, this is a safe place to slowly start building a relationship. And, with any business, I mean, it is just a relationship. The same way that we foster and build personal relationships is the same way that we do these business relationships. So your niche, you're saying, is specifically in kind of the real estate and mortgage lenders. Is that right? Or do you take people from any industry?
Yeah, I take people from any industry. I have a lot of event people. And then I have real estate lenders, all that. It really just comes from, do I connect with this client? Like, do we vibe? Like, not everybody is going to vibe. And so, like, do I understand their message? Do I feel like they're receptive to like hear my ideas? Are they just too busy? Like some people, they're too busy and they need like a liaison to really kind of handle, what's going on. So just kind of trying to find the right fit. I really am a big believer and don't do business with just anyone.
Yeah.
So that's, I feel like I'm attracting my ideal clients, and that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah,
That's
I just
awesome.
posted something this morning on LinkedIn, and it was around the concept of like attracts like. And it's so similar to what you're saying, to where as an entrepreneur, you can start a business and it's scary. You have bills to pay, you have expenses. And so there was a time where I would take any client that I could because I felt that I needed the money. And there were some bad relationships that I partnered with, and I should have seen the red flags up front, but instead I operated out of a place of fear. And so finally got to a place to where it's very freeing to say no to somebody, and to truly want to partner with somebody that is like-minded and aligned with kind of your core values. So what you're saying resonates so much. So like, to people you've said no to, I mean, what were some of the things that were the red flags, or the things where you're like, all right, we're probably not going to be the best fit?
Let's think. Okay, so people who are, how do I say this? Not wanting to put the right things out there. Like maybe someone who's sharing a lot of like negativity type of thing. That's something I would definitely run away from. People who are not willing to really give it any effort. Like someone who's just going to say, here's my brand, figure it out. Like that's not the client for me. I'm looking for someone who is as invested in it as I am. And it's really not about the money for me. Of course, I need money, right, to live, but I would rather say no to a client who is just kind of in it for the wrong reasons. They want a ton of likes. And, if you don't give me 20,000 followers in the first year, you're going to be fired. Like, that's not someone that I would really align with. So yeah, that's that on that.
So there's a lot of expectations that I've had over the last, 10 years or so. I don't even know when we got into social media. I'm getting old. But anyway, there's an expectation with social media when clients come to you, right? They want X amount of followers. They want to grow X%, X rate, X engagement. And, they've gained all this from just seeing what they've seen on social media and what they've heard. So how do you give them realistic expectations when it comes to actually building their brand? Because you've got, an organic approach, but now with today's algorithms constantly shifting, these companies need to make more revenue. So they'll sometimes shift it a little bit to where you kind of got to pay to play to reach new audience, unless you just find that magic, that magic post or video that just gains a ton of traffic. That, having that formula, I think is very difficult to nail every time with every single client. So you've got to set realistic expectations on their social media. How do you handle that?
Definitely. I think it's really about just explaining to them, where our company comes in. And what the great thing about it is whenever we come in, the clients generally within the first post get a huge response, right? They're like, oh my God, I've never seen you show up like this. And then they go about their daily life and they're running into people in meetings. And they're like, wow, I'm just loving what you're doing on your social. And then they come back to me and they're like, okay, like that person didn't even like the post, but they told me that they saw it. And so that's really the big thing. And also another thing I've seen circling around on social media, which is something that I just like randomly had a realization of. Like I was maybe feeling like, oh my God, like that was such a good post. Why didn't anyone like it? And then I'm like, people liked it. There were like 125 people that liked it, in fact. And if you had 125 people sitting here saying that they liked something you did, you'd be like, whoa, like that is the realization that people need to have. And the thing that I say all the time is, do you know how many people you need to make a sale on Instagram, as like how many followers? And the answer is one good follower that you're creating that relationship with and you're growing with, they're one person. So if you're a small business and you have 50 likes on a post, that's 50 people don't like posts anymore. Like that's 50 people who said, wow, I like this. They're seeing you and then they're thinking about you throughout the day. And there's no other marketing that you can do that is going to get into your clients' hands more than social media.
100%. I think over this past year, so do you primarily do Instagram with clients?
Yeah, majority. I mean, it depends. If I'm doing like a business to business type of situation, we'll go over to LinkedIn. Some of my clients are still on Facebook. Got some on TikTok.
Oh,
keeping it young.
Right. But I think what I was going to say, like with Instagram and like the integration of mini chats over this past year, because in the past there was such a you show up on social media, maybe take them to a landing page, and then they opt in, enter their email address, and then they check their inbox and get hit with the email to open something. It's such a laborious process of all these different activities that they have to go through. But now, post something, hey, comment the word love on this post, and I'll just drop so many DMs for this. And so it's such a seamless, easy way just to get people right in that emotional spot to where you're posting something. It's like, oh my gosh, and that captivates my attention. Just a quick comment, and then you start a conversation in the DMs. And like you were saying with meeting your best friend, you're interacting with these brands now, and you're starting to build a relationship. Like, hey, this brand is my BFF, that we're just keeping it in the DMs. And there's something powerful about the DMs as opposed to out in space where everybody can see how you comment, or having to go to an email to check it, because by the time we check that, sometimes we even forget what it was that we opted in for, because it's such an instant gratification stage or state today, to where we want it right now, and we have the access to get it right now.
Heck yeah, you got to be quick. You got to have something to offer them quick, and then they'll, But the thing about social media that's so beautiful is it allows a company or a brand to plug into their audience. I always use like the lamp, analogy, where you're like plugging the lamp into the wall and it lights up. And that's the connection that you're making with your ideal client or your audience whenever you put you back into your marketing. Like if you're out here posting graphics and stuff, you may be able to convert those people. But if you're here showing your face, they're hearing the inflection in your voice, they're seeing the emotion in your eyes, and you're going to be able to convert them 10 times, if not more, quicker by doing that and just showing up as yourself and being relatable. And it's absolutely incredible. I just feel like, and it's free. Can you even believe it? I mean, kind of, it's free.
Right.
So how much do you do with a client, organic versus boosting posts or paid ads?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of ads. It's not my thing. And here's why. I'll tell you. So when you create an ad, it has got to be so dynamic. And you have to make sure that it is going to be the best offer ever. And it's expensive. You don't want to create a crappy graphic and put it out on a Facebook ad. You're just, you might as well light your money up and put it in the fireplace, because it's just not doing you any good. Now, if you get really strategic and you're really pinning down that audience and who you're targeting, people don't even know who they're talking to. So that's the first thing. It's like you have to figure out who you're talking to before you can create an ad that is going to even produce one phone call. So I don't do a ton of that because a lot of my brands are people just connect, like normal people. And I just don't really love that. Like I don't want people to waste their money. So
it's tough. It's tough. It's a tough place to be. And what, I come back around to expectations, depending on your end user, it makes total sense. Just say if it's a brand that's selling a widget, per se, then I could see where, ads can be really, a good thing for them. The same thing with a personal brand. Organically, they've got it. They rig it a little bit to where, it's kind of, you hit the ceiling unless you just find this trade win, I feel like. Or you connect with the right people, or you have a joint post with the right people. It's to take that next level, almost feel like, social media companies, the conglomerates, they've kind of force you, to maybe boost a little bit, kind of pay to play per se, if you really want to try to gain a lot of exposure. If you can do it organically, great. I've just seen,
Mhm.
just in the past, it's organic is great, but it's slow moving. And most of the partners and clients that we work with, sometimes it's, they want to see more growth a little faster, right? So in the first year, they
Mhm.
want to, see X amount of growth per se, X amount of engagements, so they can measure their KPIs.
That's
So
right.
it's
And that's the
definitely
funny
an
thing.
interesting, that's definitely an interesting concept, of what you're
For
saying.
sure. It's hard to measure subliminal marketing. And I really
Absolutely.
relate it to billboards. Like, how do you know how many people have looked at that billboard? You don't. So we know how many people drive by it every day, and that's what they use to sell you billboards. But I
Hmm.
mean, when it comes to social media, you have to be smart about where you're putting your money, because your billboard could be seen by the completely wrong audience.
100%. And I think that's the branding aspect of it, to where, you see it enough that brand, because brand is all about emotion. And when we had Belle on, she was like, your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. And
Mm.
spot on with that statement. I think about billboards, here in the Charlotte area, you get a certain amount of miles outside of the city, and there's like the Whitewater Center. And, if you've ever seen those billboards, and we can calculate how much it costs per month to run these billboards, but it's just this action shot, of kayaking or of whitewater rafting or of zip lining, just with a Whitewater Center logo, and that's it. And so you're constantly that subliminal marketing. You're talking about that branding. We drive past it, and it like hits me because I've been there, and it's like, oh, I need to go back. I can't wait to go kayak or to go whitewater. And so it's hitting them from all those angles. But when Jason's talking about the KPIs, I mean, if I'm coming your way, Carlin, and I'm like, hey, I need help with social media, and here's your rate, that you present, of what it looks like on a monthly basis to work together. If I'm a client, I'm going to say, what are the KPIs? How can what can we measure to show this a success? Like, how do you measure KPIs with a client on social?
Yeah, so we'll definitely dig into those analytics. We'll look at the likes, we'll look at the followers, but what we're really looking at is engagement rate and how many people are, what strategies are we implementing on your stories to get your stories seen by more people? Those types of things. And just measuring, the different conversations that are
Mm.
starting from there. It's so interesting to see, like, what people will say once you make yourself vulnerable and show up.
Yeah.
And the engagement sometimes is, like I said, off of the platform. So I'm like, whenever you hear someone say something about your social media, text me. I want to know about it, And at our next meeting, we're talking about that. We're reflecting on that and the content that created that conversation so that we can make more of it. So really it's engagement, and my clients, almost every one of my clients is engaging with their sphere of influence constantly, like whenever they can. So those are big things that we're looking at. So I know I said likes aren't important, and then I turned around and said likes are important, but it's one of those double-edged swords, not to get too distracted by the likes, but more so like what accounts are looking at your stuff who don't follow you, and how did we get those people over here, and how do we get more of those people over here? So
Mm. Mm.
And
Yeah.
for people that don't know much about being able to track the analytics with social media, are you using analytics strictly within the platforms, or are there external services that you use?
yeah, I generally just use Instagram. I use Instagram analytics. I don't love anything third party that's connecting to the back of my Instagram or any of my clients. Instagram hates a third party. And I
Mhm.
don't know what it is about it, but I try to not do that. Um, and that's why I have my group of clients, and we're not growing much bigger because I really do dig into those. I'm kind of a nerd, closet nerd when it comes to that type of thing, and just looking at like what did we put out there to create that emotion that really translated into trust. And like
It's so
I said,
funny to me what you said earlier. It kind of came full circle to where when you're talking about after college and going into doing the numbers and stuff, you're like, that's not me. And now you're back to doing the numbers, and you're a closet nerd who enjoys it.
that's right. Well, mortgages turned me into a nerd.
Yes.
I got married on Pi Day, 3/14. Okay. Yeah. So, had to carry it a little bit into my social media.
I think it's so interesting. I was going to post this to my team. My wife loves social media. That's how we met. I actually hired her to do social media for TA.
Wow, both of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we originally met on I think a dating app, and then we met, and I was like, "Hey, you're good at social media, blah blah blah." So I call her my social butterfly, right? I mean, she's always like angles, trends, lighting. I mean, she works hard on posts. I'm like, baby, and for her posts that just like had the most organic views and everything, so raw and real. I think we were eating lunch at the beach, or we were traveling, and our daughter was past her nap time. Everybody was hangry, and she was just like all over the place. So we let her eat her food sitting down under the table. She was just like had an attitude. We're like, fine, go ahead, work out your emotions, eat your food, and then come back up when you're ready to talk. And she did a post, and it got like, I don't know, 3.5 million views. I mean, and people were just like talking and engaging. And to this day, she's like, I don't know what it was. Like, what is that formula? She is always perplexed. I think all of us, when you could post something organically and it hit that trade wind, right? It just hits that organic trade wind and just takes a life of its own. And we're constantly just dissecting this. So I was going to share it with the team just to say, look, 15 seconds. Took her 15 seconds to post it. I've seen her spend, an hour on a post, 2 hours on a post. And that's just so interesting to me, is how that happens. I'm always intrigued. And I would like someone to say, tell me, what is that formula? Do you know that formula, Carlin?
What it is? Yeah, that formula is called relatability. When you started telling me that story, I was like, I've been that kid.
Yeah.
I have been that kid where I just need to like sit under the table for a second. And then it's relatable because if you're a mom, you're like, oh my God, my kid would totally do that. So those little relatable moments, and that right there is something that is so important, because everybody we get in our own way and we're like, nobody would want to see this. And maybe some people don't want to see that, but they're just going to swipe past it. So that's such a good point of like, stop getting in your own way and just post it. Mm-hmm. You just never know what. And you know what is crazy is like my most viral video was of a Shania Twain concert. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to get zero business from this. So, and that goes back to, all right, so I have a couple million views on that. Well, what about my other video that I posted, just kind of talking about my life and what I do for my clients, that got me 3 new clients? You know what I mean? Like, so it's one of those like weird, mind explosions where you're like, what should I be posting? And really what I tell my people is just post everything. Like everything is content.
Right.
Make it align with your brand, right? But
I think you said it best. People get in their own 100%.
Way. Right? I believe that people buy from people, not from brand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jason. People buy from people, not from brands. And, with that, I mean, we used to hide behind the brand to where there was no face of it. And it's just this faceless voice that's pushing out content. Nobody wants to buy from those. But Carlin, like you're saying, with the relatability, if we're pushing out our stuff, we show I'm just like you, I'm just like you. And people can see, yeah, I've struggled that way with my children. I've struggled that way with my spouse. I've done this. And we're just looking for something to where we're captivated by the content creators that are pushing out stuff that relates to our day in, day life, day in and day out. And so I think the relatability and remembering that people buy from people, not from brands.
Absolutely. That's so good.
People get in their own way, like you said earlier, just bringing it back around. If they can just get out of their way and just let it go, be perfectly imperfect, right? And just let it fly. And
yeah,
you put too much thought into it. You start dissecting everything. Oh, I'm wearing an Invisalign. I got a list. Oh, I sound too country. Oh, this, oh, that, and you never do anything. It's just like, go do it. Put one foot in front of the other and make it happen. And
those are excuses. You got to let your freak flag fly.
Amen. Just be you.
Just be you.
Well, Carlin, this was so awesome, spending this time with you today and learning about your business. And I think your clients are very blessed to have you on their side. Because you know what you're talking about, and your personality, your reputation just come out, without you even saying a word. It's like you said, when the nail salon, I believe, saw you, they knew who you were just based on your brand, matching that. So it's meant a lot to us having you on today, and we always want to, drive our audience to, where you are. And so if you want people to find you, what's the best place they can find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Closing with Carlin, or you can visit my website, getsocialcharlotte.com. I look forward to connecting with you guys. And I'm so grateful for you guys. This was so fun. I really am going to need a get to know you. I want to hear you guys' story at some point.
So when's the podcast getting started?
My podcast. You guys are bold. I won't lie. My husband and I started a YouTube channel. And so I post there weekly, it's a huge commitment. And I really know what you guys go through doing something like this. So I love your commitment. This is my cat. But I love what you guys are doing, and keep it up. It's a lot to post weekly, but it's so valuable. And you're creating such a community. I really respect that.
Awesome.
But I hope you on the podcast.
Honestly, this kind of stuff is pretty easy when you have guests on, because this is you. You're doing the hard work. You're the one that's, talking and sharing and filling people in. All we get to do is facilitate it, because we don't want to be a talking heads. We want people to learn from incredible individuals like yourself.
Awesome job.
Well said.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening and joining us on the Love Your Brand podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode, and remember, share the love.